Hi, so today we will be reading chapter 2 of Games Great Lovers Play by L. Michael Hall. And chapter 2 is called The Dance of Attentive Listening. Since the quality of our listening determines the quality of our relating, the intensely listening game is where the game's great lovers play begins. What is the first game that great lovers play? What is the game that starts the passion and romance? What initiates the connecting and bonding that can lead onto a sustained game of love and affection? How do we fully enter the conversation of love so that we offer our minds, hearts, our bodies, and our entire selves? Those who know how to greatly love invest lots of energy into it. They invest themselves. In the games of love, there's passion, desire, hope, love, compassion, wonder, appreciation, enjoyment, affection, and ecstasy. Just to mention a few of the energy states. These are among the most positive emotions that we can experience when we bond with someone in the giving and receiving of love and affection. We often speak of these as romantic feelings. There's something about the bonding experience and these feelings that touch us very deeply, that call to the heights of our imaginations and dreams. We access and express all of these emotions when we engage in the first dance of romance, deep and attentive listening. For this reason, we now turn to the process of truly listening to our loved one. What's involved? What's involved in that? How do we play this game? What games prevent us from being present and showing up? The extending of our ego boundaries. When we truly love someone or something, we extend ourselves to the person and for that person. We do so as an expression of our love. This happens naturally and easily when the object of our love is cute, adorable, lovely, and beautiful. Opening ourselves up to the object in that situation of our desire is easy, natural, and exciting. This is the first game of bonding. It could be a newborn baby, a new litter of kittens, a new job, a new home, a new idea, a new friend, or a new potential mate. If the object of our love is adorable to us in some way or on some level, we easily open up to it. We extend our ego boundaries to extend a welcome. You are welcomed into my world. We also typically identify with our love so that we have the sense that the idea, friend, job, or person has entered into our inner world. This makes our world seem bigger. The ecstasy of love involves many things, yet it begins with this touch of transcendence. Touch of transcendence. When we find a new adorable object, experience, or person that we open ourselves up to, the very extending of our ego boundaries gives us the sense that we have just transcended ourselves and our life, and that life itself has just opened up and transcended old limitations and definitions. We call this falling in love. Falling in love is exciting, thrilling, and intoxicating precisely because we become more in the experience. We are invited into redefining ourselves and our life. We sense that we have stepped outside of ourselves and into something bigger. Sometimes this can create so much of an altered state that we feel as if we are in a hypnotic trance. We may feel disoriented, unsure about what to think or feel, or even outside of our body for a while. In this way, opening our ego boundaries initiates a feeling and experience of transcendence. As we extend our ego boundaries, we transcend ourselves. We transcend our self-definitions and understandings, and in extending ourselves, we become more. It is this sense of expansion that gives us the rush of excitement and ecstasy and passion. Our aloneness is transcended as we share our consciousness with another, as we co-create a special world which we then share together. Yet within this experience, there are numerous sub-elements which come together to create this overall sense of romance. As a gestalt experience and state, romance is made up of some more common states: appreciation, desire, hope, imagination, connection, rapport, etc. And because these make up the heart of romance, we turn our attention to them. At the heart of all of these lies something so simple, something so basic, something so obvious that it is so easy to overlook. Listening and attending. The listening to understand game. We are born to bond. Bonding is what we naturally do with each other, with our pets, and even with inanimate objects. We are human and become human through bonding. And as adults, the bonding doesn't end. As we grow up and become independent, we move to a place where we can bond with a special one in a healthy, interdependent way. This necessitates some additional skills of independence, skills that allow the bonding to continue, namely the game of rapport. How do we make contact? How do we establish friendly relations with another? How do we communicate in a way that promotes understanding? The short answer is by entering into our lover's world, by matching or pacing our loved one's way of thinking and feeling. We come to understand him or her. The metaphor of pacing suggests that we move alongside and go at the other's pace, slow, moderate, or fast depending on the person's speed. It means that we take our lead from them and match responses. Pacing describes the process by which we skillfully match some portion of the other's ongoing experience. It could be the person's physiology, breathing, posture, thoughts, feelings, values, connectedness, which leads to the sense of being in values, meanings, or just about anything. When we do this, it creates a sense of connectedness, which leads to the sense of being in rapport. How do we enter into each other's world and share that reality? How do we deeply connect with another person? How do you welcome the differences? First comes the listening game. If the quality of our relating and connecting is directly related to the quality of our listening, then are you pleased with how you and your loved one listen to each other? Do you feel heard and understood? Does your partner? How much quality time do you spend being present and just listening? Listening means entering each other's world empathically with a passionate desire to understand, to truly understand your loved one. It means being present. It means being fiercely focused in the here and now, and it means not going elsewhere. To play this intense focusing and listening game, we adopt the eyes of appreciation, wonder, amazement, and respect for the world out of which the other person comes. We also add a zest as we play this game by making it safe for our loved one to open up and disclose his or her internal world. If the conversation is the relationship, and if we relate to our loved one, one conversation at a time, then every conversation enriches or impoverishes the quality of our loving. Listening is the process of engagement by which we come into the conversation. This makes how we listen crucial. Do we do so half awake or fully alert? Do we do so engaged and committed or as routine and habit? It makes all the difference in the world. The seeking to first understand game. In communication, we seek first to understand. If we don't begin by seeking to understand, we will answer questions not asked and solve problems that the other doesn't care about solving. Yet, how often do we listen thoroughly enough to engage in this kind of dialogue? How often do we just jump in talking with another person, thinking we are communicating when we really have not engaged in a dialogue for the purpose of understanding? This is especially challenging for anyone highly skilled at offering advice. Yet to jump to advice giving is to fail to truly listen. A better game is to seek first to listen for understanding. Yet how many of us have any formal training in listening, in empathic listening? This subject is not often taught. What listening models are they that allow us to deeply understand another person's frame of reference? Apart from content, what do we listen for? What can we listen for? And as we listen, what attitude governs our listening? Isn't it obvious that to interact effectively with anyone, and especially our loved one, we must first understand the person? Isn't it obvious that to interact effectively with anyone, and especially our loved one, we must first understand the person? This is especially true if we want to influence. When we try to influence without listening, we descend to merely manipulating. Reverse the roles. Would you give anyone permission to influence you who doesn't take the time or effort to understand you first? Whenever we sense that someone is manipulating us or just using a technique on us, trust evaporates. We don't trust them. We don't feel safe to open up to them. Here are some questions about our skills in the dance of attentive listening. To what extent am I influenced by my partner's uniqueness? Do I appreciate and value his or her differences? How is my partner different and how do I frame the differences? How open am I to listening to my partner and seeking to truly understand on his or her own terms? How aware am I that listening fills the emotional needs of my loved one? Inadequate listening games. How often do you engage in pseudo-listening? Pseudo-listening looks like you are listening, yet the response that we might call listening is hardly listening at all. We are not really listening. We have not actually shown up, but are only going through the motions of listening. Inside, we are not really hearing, registering, or being with the other person. For most of us, ineffective listening habits are deeply scripted. We probably learned to listen this way at school and with parents, and we gave them half an ear. We first need to become aware of the pseudo-listening styles and how they undermine our ability to be a great lover. What are the key barriers to good listening? The most neutral one is a fact that we all have to live with and recognize. The speed of our mind travels far faster than anyone's tongue. Speaking occurs between 100 to 150 words a minute. How fast can you read? 700 words or 3,000? The fastest speed readers pick up 10,000 words a minute. The difference is the speed of tongue, ear, and mind give us lots of space for going somewhere else. The biggest offenders include the following: judgment, evaluation, problem solving, analysis, distraction, ignoring, and assuming. When we respond in these ways, why should the other person open up? If our lover exposes his or her soft underbelly and we elephant stomp on it with advice, criticism, preaching, judgment, superiority, insult, and mind reading, is it any surprise to find our loved one defensive or closed? All pseudo-listening is ego-centered listening. We are not actually listening to our loved one at all. Instead, we are listening, if you can even call it that, through our own autobiography, and so listening for ways to be right, to satisfy our wants and concerns, and to solve our problems. It's hardly listening, is it? And none of us want to be listened to in that way, do we? Listening autobiographically, we are not getting sufficiently out of ourselves to listen. We are meeting our loved one at our map of the world, so we'll be hearing things entirely on our terms, not our lovers. If we listen autobiographically, we listen to evaluate, agree or disagree, to probe, asking questions like a district attorney, to advise, problem solve, tell, preach, or to interpret, analyze, explain their motives, mind read. These responses limit us from understanding others and prevent us from being able to truly step inside and see the world from the other's perspective. The defensive listening game. Do you ever listen to your loved one defensively? In this kind of so-called listening, we listen with the intent to reply, to explain, and to defend oneself. When we listen defensively, we seek to catch words, ideas, and phrases that we can attack. We listen for the weakness of the other position, the weak spots in words and ideas. It is pseudo-listening to the extent that we are filtering things through our own belief frames. We are using and reading our own autobiography into what the other says. We look for weaknesses and points of disagreement. Is it any wonder that such listening inevitably leads to a failure to understand and creates much misunderstanding? The leisure listening game. Listening in a leisurely way comes from a lazy and non-focused state. In lazy listening, we only attend to what pleases or delights us, what we find delightful, fun, or interesting. Leisure listening lacks the energy to be truly attentive to our loved one and to invest our heart and soul. It may look like listening on the outside, but it is not. The analytical listening game. In analytical listening, we do not listen to understand as to gather facts. It's an external kind of listening. The listening may be intense, yet in it we are seeking to not so much listen for the person's inner world as for surface facts and details. Listening in this way works well for lectures, college classes, and gathering technical information. It does not work well for intimate relationships precisely because it misses the most critical subject, our lover's heart. The game of attentive listening. Authentic listening demands a deep shift in our thinking, feeling, and behaving. Very few of us really know how to do it. And no wonder. How many of us have had any training in it? No wonder few fully appreciate or experience its power and magic. Very few of us have had this kind of listening effectively modeled for us. We haven't seen it in action. How do we do it? What are the steps to enter into this game? 1. Set your aim to attend without having any agenda except exploring. Begin by truly attending with no agenda other than to understand. Seek to understand the perceptual and emotional reality of the other. Attentively follow the other's line of reasoning, inquiring about his meanings, exploring things not understood, listening with your eyes, giving go-ahead messages or encourages, and paraphrasing back to assure understanding. In dropping our agendas, we step into a state of simply witnessing and being with our loved one. 2. Aim to see the world from our lover's point of view. In empathic listening, we intentionally listen to understand so we can step inside the other's way of perceiving and see things the way he or she does. Our intention is highly focused on understanding our partner's perceptions, understandings, beliefs, emotions, values, and experiences. Why do this? Because of the person's importance to us and to make it easier for our partner to feel safe. 3. Be present in the moment to the other. Step into this present moment, into the now. Open all of your senses so that you can truly and fully see, hear, and feel the other. Being in sensory awareness itself is a very special state, an altered state for most of us, and one that gets us out of our heads with all of our past and future representations. It invites us to live in this moment and to experience it fully for what it is. 4. Step inside the other's world. By such listening, we step inside the frames of our partner. We come to see the world from his or her viewpoint and so come to understand our loved one's internal world, how it is organized, and how it makes sense to him or her. In empathic listening, our aim is not to agree, confirm, and validate the other's point of view, not at first. Our aim only is to more fully understand. To do this, we listen for feelings, meanings, intentions, wants, etc. Why play the game of focused listening? What will we and our loved one win when we play this game? You'll probably already recognize many of the values in attentive listening. First and foremost, it provides us more accurate data about our lover and his or her world. Since we are dealing with the reality inside our lover's head and heart, only by listening can we obtain this information. If we will listen autobiographically, we will project our maps and will hear things in terms of our own reality, not our partner's. That feeds misunderstanding and guarantees low quality information. We offer a unique gift in attentively listening. We give our partner psychological air, room to breathe and think. This kind of listening is also deeply therapeutic and healing. In addition to focused listening, giving us accurate information to work with, it enables us to get to the heart of matters quickly, to emotionally bond with our lover, to increase our mutual influence with each other, to deepen understanding, to save lots of time in the long run that we otherwise would take to undo, redo, correct, etc. when we haven't listened and misunderstandings have arisen. So how to play the listening game? Number 1, Begin by framing listening as highly important. To become skilled and professional at intense listening, you have to value listening enough to give yourself to its practice. That's the question, isn't it? The skill of showing up and being present with someone is truly listening to them. The skill of showing up and being present with someone in truly listening to them takes time to develop to become skilled in it. 2. Set your goal to become an excellent listener. Have you made attentive listening a personal goal? Have you ever set a goal that you will spend an entire day focusing on listening attentively? As you proactively decide to develop your ability to attentively listen, to attentive listening, it will turn this kind of listening into a habit. It will become your default frame of mind, something that you just do as you move through the world. You just always seek first to understand. 3. Center yourself as you listen. Use the centering exercise, chapter 17, to create a base from which to listen. This will prevent you from getting sucked into another story, from personalizing, and from needing to fix the one speaking. The more centered we feel, the richer our sense of personal security, and the more we get our ego out of the way. Listening is risky to the extent that it involves opening oneself up to another and caring about another. Number 4, cue yourself to put aside your own autobiography. Because it is easy to fall back into listening in terms of our own history and experiences, we have to continually cue ourselves to stay awake and to be present. Interrupt the old patterns by recognizing that you are focusing more on you than the other. Do you hear a lot of self-chatter in the back of your mind? Interrupt that self-talk and call yourself back to a listening mode. At that point, inwardly quiet yourself so you can just listen. 5. Invest energy as you listen. How active or passive do you find listening as an activity? How engaged are you in terms of all of your mind, emotion, body, actions, etc.? While it's tempting to think of it as passive, the kind of fierce, intense, and focused listening that we are interested in here is very active. It involves being in the moment, staying with the speaker, seeking to understand, and giving encouragements to continue. We listen best when we ask questions and give the other person our undivided time and focus. We can get into the habit of actively reflecting meanings and feelings to check accuracy. We listen energetically by actively reflecting back what we have heard in a tentative way and ask for feedback. This works magic. This lets the person know that we are listening attentively and gently empowers the other to open up. 6. Make speaking completely safe for the other. Would you open up and share if you thought the other would ridicule or use it against you? Of course not. Great lovers know how to make it safe for their loved one to speak freely. They do so by avoiding all judgments, criticisms, labeling, put-downs, advice-giving, and anything else that comes across as negative. Nothing shuts down communication like judgment. Any negative response like a criticism, a put-down, or even advice-giving will shut the doors. Conversely, safety, trust, and openness makes communication feel safe and easy. It opens the door and validates the other person. 7. Approach with a genuine win-win attitude. In all areas of life, attitude is everything. While this is true in business and sports, it is even more true in intimate relationships. We first need a win-win attitude that validates the other, makes the communication a shared experience that seeks to cooperate and build a mutual exchange. Patiently listening to our loved one allows our partner to get to the core issues and invites self-discovery of his or her own solutions. 8. Match or pace the other's reality. Use matching and mirroring to connect. How? Use words that agree with and are congruent with your partner's internal experience. In doing this, you will make it possible for your lover to open up to you, trust you, and turn the transaction into a transformational opportunity. 9. Demonstrate your understanding. How can we demonstrate understanding? We do this by accurately describing the person's ideas, concerns, and understandings. Often, we can put in words what the other is trying to say in a way that's more accurate and descriptive. This adds value to the other. It lets the other truly know that we do understand, and we understand with some depth. To do this, say, let me see if I really understand what your concerns and objectives are. Exploring your current skills in this game. Identify your current listening patterns. Which of the following do you sometimes use with your loved ones? Defensive listening, thinking how to respond. Lazy, leisurely listening, distractively. Analytical listening, technical listening. Problem-solving listening, thinking how to fix it. Autobiographical listening, listening with your filters. Judgmental listening, thinking evaluatively. Attentive listening, attending their words and meanings. Empathic listening, attending their feelings and reality. Are there any barriers that prevents you from practicing empathic listening? Common barriers include the following: preoccupation with my own ideas, emotions, and issues, wanting to tell and give advice, impatience, wanting to hurry up and get to the bottom line, judgmental mindset, thinking in right or wrong, black and white, fear of what I might hear, inability to deal with another's negative emotions, inability to deal with my own negative emotions, other. To practice attentive listening, invite someone close to you who knows about the listening game and how you want to develop it as a habit. I would really like to develop my empathic listening skills. Would you help me by letting me practice listening, reflecting, and pacing with you? Listening and ego boundaries. The first game that great lovers play is a game so simple that it is really easy to miss. It is the game of genuinely attending and listening. Of course, there's a hitch in this. And the hitch is that we have to open our ego boundaries to truly listen. This is the challenging part. This explains why we find it more natural to listen defensively, lazily, analytically, judgmentally, and egocentrically. Yet in these pseudo-listening modes, we fail to open ourselves up to the other person. We stay safely behind our ego boundaries and do not venture forth to truly meet the other person. In authentically listening, we open our ego boundaries to the other. In this way, we enter into his or her world and let that internal world affect us. That's the rub. We let the other's internal world affect us. It takes a lot of resourcefulness to allow this. It takes a lot of centering, self-esteem, and self-knowledge to be able to truly be with the other and to give the other our presence, our compassion, and our understanding. The word understanding is fascinating in this connection. In understanding another, we stand under that other person as a support. This is what gives the person the courage to share her or his internal world. Our lover can trust that we will be there to stand under him or her in support. If we don't, they will feel that we do not truly understand. If we do, they feel bonded to us and that we truly understand them. This is the magic of the understanding that arises from listening, from attentive listening. And it's the first dance that great lovers play. So, I will attach the summary and end notes to this video so that you can read it yourself. Chapter 3 will be the next video, and it is titled The Dance of Love's Attraction. Thank you. Baie dankie. Shia. See you.